Hey, welcome back to another video, and it looks like the third day has finally come to an end. We had Jim Ryan on stand. That's gonna be a really interesting one to get into. We had Professor Lee. That was calamitous and weird. And then we had the final Microsoft witness, expert witness for economist witness, which we'll get to at the end. There was additional witnesses that were supposed to be there today, but because of how long things took, they've pushed it into tomorrow. So Satya Nadella is going to be on stand after 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. So let's start with Jim Ryan, because I thought this would be the best place to start. This is where, the video recording of Jim Ryan was made and presented to everyone at the court, because he couldn't be bothered to turn up on the day because he decided to go and see Hideo Kojima instead, for a case that he's so adamant and that is so important to him, that he's so worried about, that will fail. That will, bring ruin to PlayStation. The guy couldn't even be bothered to turn up, and for good measure as well, because I'd really like to know how he would have defended himself if he was actually cross-examined in court, because there was enough lying in his recording to make anyone cringe. And I don't care what anyone says, the guy was ludicrously lying. I mean, to turn around and say Xbox Live Gold, right? I'm not talking about Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate. I am talking about Xbox Live Gold is the equivalent of PlayStation Extras, not even PlayStation Plus. I'm talking PlayStation Extras. He actually had the audacity, the nerve, the balls to turn around and say that Xbox Live Gold that is pretty much garbage right now is the same as PlayStation Extras. Now let that sink in a bit. And if you do find this video useful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this, as well as other awesome gaming news, and let's get on with the actual video. So as the FTC case started, Jim Ryan was giving his explanation, his answers, and the FTC was answering him some pretty rudimentary questions. Stuff that, he was well prepared for. Everything was versed. It was all played out exactly the way the FTC wanted. The FTC felt really smug about themselves, and Jim Ryan felt even more smug, as he thought he had a one-up over everything. But things changed. Things changed drastically when Microsoft's lawyers got involved. And boy, oh boy, did things change. And it was really weird, because if you're listening in, the actual FTC lawyer and the Microsoft lawyer were both women, which is, that's fine, but they actually sounded very similar. So at one point, a lot of people thought that the FTC was roasting Jim Ryan, but it didn't take long to realize it was actually Microsoft's lawyer. There wasn't even an announcement when there's a lawyer change. You just have to hear, you kind of have to just keep an eye out for the accent change that happens at random places to know when the actual change was happening, because certain stuff was obviously redacted, so it was like kind of cutting in and out of certain places. But boy, oh boy, once the Microsoft lawyer got involved, things got spicy, and Beth Wilkinson done a fantastic job. Again, the FTC really did nothing to further its agenda. It pretty much played it ultra safe and decided that it wasn't going to try and fortify itself. Instead, it was basically going to just play it safe and say, hey, look, Jim Ryan, you said you were scared and concerned. Now, the FTC went on the basis that when Jim Ryan got an email from Phil Spencer, it said Overwatch, but not Overwatch 2 of the games that's going to be guaranteed to be on PlayStation. Now, I don't even think you can actually play Overwatch 1. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Overwatch 2 replaced it, right? Like entirely. You can't actually play Overwatch 1 anymore. So I think that's a given. But, at this point, Jim Ryan was basically just making things up as he went along, and you know, the whole purpose that he didn't appear in court, quite frankly, is that he did not want to be cross-examined in front of people where he would have actually been grilled. Even on the video, when the Microsoft lawyer, Beth Wilkinson, was actually questioning him, he was apparently really nervous. He was uncomfortable. He didn't like the questions. It got really, really uncomfortable for him. And this was all because he was actually basically just bullshitting his way around. At one point, Ryan said internally that Bungie could give Sony more than the $69 billion acquisition of ABK would give Microsoft. Now Microsoft, and then he quickly changed that when he was questioned about it, and he said, "Oh, it's just because of their skill set." But let's face it, it's got nothing to do with that. He just knew that Bungie's deal for them, especially in the gas market, the movie market, and everywhere else, it would actually be a really, really good deal for them, and they actually took advantage of that. Then they asked Jim Ryan, would it be in Xbox's interest to keep Activision games available on multiple platforms? And Jim Ryan said no. This is a stark contrast from when he actually said yes, then doesn't like to answer a hypothetical question of what he'd do if he was in charge of Xbox. Because the question was posed was, what would you do? If you was in charge of Xbox, would you make it multi-platform? And he refused to answer. He said, I don't feel comfortable in answering that question. The answer is, if he was in charge and this, the tables were turned and it was PlayStation buying Activision, not a single game that's being offered, from Call of Duty to Diablo to Overwatch to anything, would be available on Xbox. Everything would be exclusive. He knows it, the FTC knows it, the whole world knows it. So the fact that Microsoft is actually being forthcoming and offering all these games to remain multi-platform is, a good deal. It's a good deal as far as PlayStation should be concerned. But apparently at some point there was over here you can see Ryan at some point was extremely confident that Call of Duty would remain on their platform. And to be fair, Phil Spencer and Satya Nadella has never denied this. They've always said that the game would remain on there. Microsoft's lawyer getting back to Ryan's January 2022 email with "will be okay, more than okay." So Jim Ryan basically, to put some context onto that, there was an email sent internally around when this actually was announced with the Activision merger, and Jim Ryan didn't even break a sweat. He wasn't concerned at all. His statement, "will be okay, more than okay, because we've got a bunch of stuff planned. We will be just fine." But then he tried to downplay the importance of the email because it was within 24 hours of the announcement of transactions. It's not like he's a schoolboy that's just got into that position and doesn't have decades of experience. He decided to say, basically at the time when I said that, I wasn't really grasping the complete importance, the magnitude of what was happening. Dude, you're paid millions of pounds a year to run the company, and you're telling me you don't? Come on. Ryan says as of the interview April this year, he had significant concerns as to the continued availability of COD and other Activision titles for PlayStation. Now this actually got quite bad, and I'm really disappointed in the Microsoft lawyers for not actually pushing this further. Ryan ultimately, though he tried to avoid it, had to acknowledge the first-party titles accounted during a certain period for 15% of Sony Interactive Entertainment's profits. That's a lot of profit, right? Their first-party exclusives amounted for 15%. That's pretty sweet. Despite over here, where it says Ryan said he talked to all publishers, they unanimously do not like Game Pass because it's a value destructive. He then follows up by saying publishers are fully incentivized to publish on PlayStation platforms, because obviously there's no Game Pass system in place. They're going to get maximum sales, etc. Yada yada yada. He also says that between 2025 and 2035 is when cloud gaming will become a meaningful component, but neither he nor anyone in the world can predict exactly when. Not only that, they can't predict that it's actually going to take off either. Jim Ryan said that Nintendo is in the console market. Nintendo. And so a topic that kept on coming up yesterday. So the topic of Nintendo just won't go away, and as they continue to try and discredit Nintendo, they simply cannot. And it just keeps getting, going around in circles. Jim Ryan eventually said that yes, Nintendo is in the console market, because originally he said they weren't, but then he had to rephrase what he said and said that yes, they're in the console market, but they are not Sony's direct competitor. Microsoft is. Jim Ryan stated his opinion that Nintendo audience enjoys Mario, Zelda, but not Call of Duty, but stresses it's just an opinion. In fact, he went as far as saying that their audience play kiddie games and are not interested in mature games, because apparently Resident Evil, the whole shebang, isn't available on the Switch, and other, more adult-oriented games like Fatal Frame aren't available on the Switch. No mature games are available on the Switch. So, it's only designed for kiddies. So the constant topic on foreclosing Call of Duty or partial foreclosing kept on coming up, where Microsoft might withhold Call of Duty, or might make actually make game modes available on Xbox that they're not going to do for PlayStation, and have a degraded version, and that would be detrimental to PlayStation. It was also reminded to him that games like Final Fantasy 16, which were completely foreclosed by Xbox, also helped Sony, but he didn't respond to that. They're doing. You can see they're done showing excerpts from Ryan's video exposition. Like on the previous days, the FTC achieved nothing. So one of the other questions, one of the other things that came up was how Jim Ryan said that one of his biggest concerns is that PlayStation is going to get a degraded version, or that there's going to be certain features that are withheld, or they're going to get extra features that can actually, benefit Microsoft and not them. I mean, the fact that he had the audacity to say that after he's been doing that for God knows how long, exclusive operators, exclusive skins, exclusive weapons, exclusive yada yada yada. I mean, that's literally the PlayStation motto, to try and get people to buy Call of Duty on PlayStation instead of buying it on Xbox. I mean, they even had a game mode that was exclusive for a whole year. And before anyone gets in my face and says, oh, but it wasn't a very good mode, I don't really give a shit. The simple fact is, he withheld a whole game mode from another platform to try and get people to buy it. And now he's complaining about a degraded version? Come on. The guy's full of shit, and he knows it. And the Microsoft lawyers did a fantastic job in making him sweat. They absolutely destroyed him. They cooked him on a wheel and sent him home. The Microsoft lawyers poked all the they poked everything. They even turned around and started asking him questions about his deal with ZeniMax, right? And said stuff like, you're saying that you can't trust Microsoft. And he goes, yes, I can't. And he goes, why not? And he goes, well, they're my competitor. They want to hurt us. And he goes, but haven't you worked with them in the past? And he goes, yes. And he's like, well, have they wanted to hurt you in the past? Have they not delivered on their promises from the past? Have they not, respected previous contractual agreements from the past? And he was saying, well, they have. So what reason do you have to believe or to suggest that Microsoft, who has, respected contracts from Deathloop when they bought Bethesda, respected contracts with Ghostwire when they bought Bethesda, so what reason do you have to believe that they would be lying now? And he goes, well, I don't. but you just said you do. You have your concerns. And he goes, I do. So why do you have concerns when there's nothing that's actually happened over the past year or two to suggest that they would do anything like that? And he finally conceded that he doesn't have concerns about the contract and that he he has no concern. You know, he basically went round in a circle and the Microsoft lawyers basically almost forced it out of him. But in the end, he had no choice but to concede that Microsoft have not lied to him at any point regarding what they can have and what they can't, and they've given him no reason to doubt what they're saying is true. So the fact that Microsoft is saying that Call of Duty will remain on there for the foreseeable future, there's literally no reason for him to doubt this outside of him wanting to basically just block the deal for the sake of blocking it. There's literally, you know, there was no grounds for him. And the fact that he even didn't turn up to court clearly told you how much he values this case anyway. It was pretty pathetic, honestly. And what started off as a really, really boring cross-examination by the FTC, because the FTC just played it smart. They were just going for, you know, the simple questions that were getting a quick... I mean, if this was in the UK Parliament, it'd be like them going, yay, ray, ray. But as soon as Microsoft's lawyers came out, they absolutely destroyed Phil Spencer. They absolutely destroyed Jim Ryan. And you could see, well, and from what people are saying, you could, and from what the tweets were saying, as you saw here as well, you know, he was very uncomfortable and he did not like the questioning. He at one point even refused to answer the questions because it would, you know, implicate him in supporting what Microsoft was saying. Even when the news of Mojang came out and the fact that they wouldn't give the PlayStation hardware to Microsoft or Activision should the merger go through, they did for Mojang's Minecraft. So what was the difference? And let's be realistic, right? Sony patents everything. If Microsoft tried to steal anything or alter anything to change it in a way that could slightly be different but to try and make it their own, Sony would sue the living shit out of them for stealing their patent. Right? They're not gonna do that. No one is that stupid. But Sony tried to put that in place, and so that got, I mean, that argument was also destroyed by Microsoft's lawyers as well. And even then, Jim Ryan, though he stuck to his guns regarding that, even the judge was a bit bewildered by his actions. And so on that ground, what started off as a supposedly okay run for the FTC turned out to be quite dramatically bad as soon as the Microsoft lawyers got involved. I'll be honest with you, the FTC lawyers are complete turd. They're bad. The FTC actually brought in probably some of the worst lawyers they could possibly have asked for. They are really, really bad. And the ones that Microsoft have, man, they must have paid top dollar, because these people are freaking amazing when it comes to their work. I mean, with what they did to the next witness, I actually felt sorry for him. But we're going to cover that in the next video. This video has gone on for about, what, 20 minutes? I don't want it to go on for too long. So just know that despite everything that Jim Ryan tried to do, he not only implicated himself in lying, but he also exposed himself for being unprofessional, anti-competitive, and, you know, it was just sad to see how low he stooped with everything, because, in my opinion, you know, he could have shown more respect to the courts, to Microsoft, to everyone else, and he chose not to. Instead, he chose to basically revel in a position where he thought he could win. And he got exposed quite badly, and that's not a good place to be. That said, though, what was also revealed today is that the leaking of insider trading information from the CMA probably instigated the decision of Jim Ryan as well, because he probably got wind of the block deal earlier than anyone else, along with those that were presumably insider trading, and that probably was a factor in his change of mind, because from being completely okay with it, he even said that, he wasn't having Microsoft didn't communicate with him. They weren't getting in touch with him. He had no communication with Microsoft at all. And then it was proven through emails and correspondences that he was lying, and Microsoft did contact him. They did have a long chain of email back and forth discussing things about ways to move forward if and when this merger goes through. I mean, even to that extent, he was lying. How much can you actually take on in that regard? How much of his testimony can you take on board? He didn't aid the FTC in any way, shape, or form. He even confirmed that he has no concerns that Call of Duty would be removed off PlayStation. And the fact that, the Microsoft lawyer asked him, so based on the fact that Microsoft has respected your last two contracts with Ghostwire and Deathloop with Bethesda Games, what concerns do you have that they're going to break they're going to lie to you or breach that contract? And he finally said, I don't have any. Because he doesn't. He really doesn't. So he spent like an hour or two on that stand saying how he had concerns and all this and all that. And when push came to shove, he finally confirmed that he doesn't have concerns that they would do this. Take that as you will. I mean, the bombshell actually dropped when Jim Ryan confirmed that cloud gaming is not a new market or a new business or whatever you want to call it, but it's a service. It's an additional service, not a new platform. Because when they were asking him about his PlayStation Now, he said, it is a service. Cloud gaming is just a service, another form of a deliverable for us to get gamers to play games. It is not a new market. It is not. He was trying to evade and try to avoid saying it, and he kept on trying to, evade the question. He kept on trying to provide different answers, and Beth Wilkinson kept on saying, "That is not what I'm asking you. Can you please answer the question?" And he said, "But I don't want to answer the question." And she openly turned around and told him, "I don't care what you want and don't want. I'm telling you, you have to answer the question. Is cloud gaming a service or this?" And in the end, he had to concede that it is a service. And that completely throws out the market definition of the FTC. And as we see when it comes to Judge Corley, who later you'll see in video 2, she actually asks, this, I don't see how cloud gaming or Game Pass is any different to just putting the disc in and playing the game. It is just a different way of playing the same game, but just paying for it in a different way. But even she is not convinced that cloud gaming is a new market. It's not a new platform. It's not anything. It is just an additional way for you to play the same games from the same people. That's it. And if that gets thrown out the window, then comes the question about Call of Duty, which, as you'll see in the next video, didn't really do much. And there was a lot of holes to poke. And even Jim Ryan, as you've seen in this video, couldn't really defend it. First, he was saying that he's perfectly fine with it. He was saying he was okay with it. There was no problem with it. That he had no concerns with it. And then just because he put Overwatch and not Overwatch 2, Overwatch 1 doesn't even exist anymore. He has concerns. And clearly his concerns were propagated by the fact that he got insider info that the CMA was going to block it, because 2 days after he had concerns, they blocked the deal. So that gave him rise to be able to do that. Right. Clearly, even he doesn't believe that this is a concern and this will hurt PlayStation. And the fact that he's worried about the PlayStation 6 dev kits being exposed or, used in a way by Microsoft, you have patents for a reason. You can sue the living shit out of Microsoft and make them pay you so many royalties that, they might as well just take their console off the market entirely. Right? It's not there. It's not there. And anyway, as I've been saying in this video in regards to Jim Ryan, he started off really cool, but as soon as he got pressured and put under the under the collar, as they say, he crumbled. He crumbled bad. And for someone in his position, I expected more, but there was only so much he could lie about before his lies turned around. Even when he was lying, they were referring him back to documents where he made a declaration and they were reading out the quotes he said. And then he was like, well, if I've said it, I've said it. What's up? It's like, excuse me? You just said you didn't say it. And she asked you 3 times. And you're saying, I didn't say it. And now you're saying, well, if I've said it, I've said it. I don't care. Like I said, Jim Ryan today was pretty bad. I think a lot of people will have, outside of the PlayStation cronies, will have lost a lot of respect for him because he didn't turn up to court, being 20 minutes away from the courthouse, decided to go somewhere else for a case that apparently would mean absolute devastation for Sony. Being worried that they're going to get a degraded product when that is all they give to Microsoft, a degraded product. And then to turn around and continuously lie. I mean, Xbox Live Gold being equivalent to PlayStation Extras? Really? Really? I mean, I get the base Game Pass being equivalent, but Xbox Live Gold? I mean, the guy was just lying for like 80% of that whole thing. And it's nice to see that he was completely and utterly ripped apart to the point where I don't think he's ever going to want to go into that room again. And if the FTC tells him, hey, can you come support us? I think he'll just give him the middle finger because he was humiliated on that stand. It was bad. But that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.